thoughts, and I'm sure Sensei, you would have a lot to add to that, you know, and he was referring more or less to hindsight for me, is how innovative he was in that, it being a mixed martial arts world now, mixing arts. Well, Bruce was one of the first mixed martial artists. He mixed grappling, he mixed Western boxing, he adored a lot of that Western boxing champion, incorporated that into what he did. In other words, he didn't stay with his blinkers on within the confines of his style, or what his master said the style was. He became his own instructor and broadened his horizons, thought out of the box, and I think that's a big lesson to all of us. I know Sensei Benny is one of the first to say, teach me something. You know, you do a class with Sensei Benny, it's not just do what I do, this is the only way you can do it. You know, Sensei Benny is the first one to be open to, if you've got something to share, he's an open book, he's an empty cup, and if he can learn something from you, then he's all for it. And again, that's all the indications of somebody that's after mastery in what they do. They're open to all sorts of aspects of learning.
I think since Richard, you know, it's when Bruce Lee was actually the first one to come and bring something new to the Western world here. And what was new was the things he was doing we didn't see. We didn't know, and we knew a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but the way he put it together, it made sense. I was doing mixed martial arts, calling it not mixed martial arts, it was called Kempo Shotokai, my family's style. And we mixed in judo, Kempo karate, taekwondo, a little bit of everything that my brothers. And when Sensei Richard came, we just threw him in the box with all of us. And he had no choice but to learn. And the beautiful part about it is Bruce Lee brought it to the public. It was kind of, everybody was doing their own little thing in their own way. My family, we had a dojo in our garage, and it was very unique because being 9 black guys in my family, we all intermixed, and myself and my sister was more Chinese style, more soft style, and my other brothers were more hard style. So we kind of combined. But when Bruce brought it forward at the internationals, it was to a point where it was almost acceptable, like to put everything together, because back then everybody kept their style to themselves. We're Taekwondo, we're Shotokan, we're Lima Lama, but they kind of kept it to themselves. And it was like, shh, secret, don't pass it around, this is just for us. And the problem with that is, it divided the martial arts.
Yes. And
anytime you start to divide the martial arts, then you're actually saying, we're better than you, when you start dividing. And it's only because I feel if you're not willing to share, then you're afraid. And it was something almost like the students. It was not, at that time, you asked Sensei questions. Otherwise, there was a challenge. So you didn't ask questions. Now, it completely changed. Completely changed. It was almost like, if you don't ask questions, then we think you don't care. And back then, it was a different type of training, different type of mentality, different type of thinking. And Bruce Lee brought it to a certain point where it was almost like not giving us permission to do it, but it was almost like, he's doing it, it's okay for us to do it. Even though we're doing it behind closed doors, he brought it forward and he made it okay to actually mix styles.
And to question.
And to question, exactly.
Why do I do it this way? Why can't I do it this way? I think, and that was the important thing. And Sensei's right, even with Zendakai, which is the style I got into after my initial Goju grounding, same sort of thing as the Jetson, not the same evolution, but because we had a lot of people worked on doors and everything, we had to look at the reality aspect of combat. So we started to bring different aspects again, boxing and everything else in there. And this was back in 1970. But that was the biggest lesson for us, is the same things as I said in Australia. It was very much blinkers on. If you're Shotokan, that's all you did. If Goju blocked like this and Shotokan did this, then you didn't mix them. And a lot of it, I think, was based on insecurity. You know, I think it's not the students, it was the instructors. Very fearful for me of being found out what they don't know.
I think that's true. You know, as they say, you take on the sins of your father's father, or you take on the sins of your sensei.
Yes, that's exactly it. But, you know, I used to say to the students, if you go to a tournament, if you get that mentality, you'll tend to go, you go and watch, say, a Shotokan tournament, Wheel Goju, and you look at it, you get in this mindset of looking for what is not as good as what you do. Oh, look at this, dancing bad, this bad, that bad. Well, if you take that attitude, you leave that event at the same place you went in. But if you can look at it from the point of view, well, a style that's so established, and there must be something good. What is there good in there that I can see, even if it's 1% that I can add to what I do, then that's a win-win situation. You learn then, you learn having enriched yourself with a little more knowledge, and it's really just an attitude. And I think for me back then, I look back, a lot of it was really the teachers, the instructors, and the way they would teach. As Sensei said, it'd be like if you said, well, why can't I punch like this? Why this? Don't ask, just do it. Just do what I tell you. And I hesitate to say that in a lot of circumstances, it was because the instructors themselves didn't know. Right?
That's the only reason why you don't question. But again, remember, the brain needs three things. And the brain needs focus. What is it do you want? If your brain doesn't know where it's going or what it wants, how do you know in which direction to head? So your mind needs focus. What do you want? Okay? So that way your soul may manifest it, first of all. So that way you can make it happen if you understand what it is that you want. And then your brain needs a hero. How many of you have heroes here? All of you should have heroes, because again, the brain needs a hero that you may take the better things from that hero and make it yours. That means if you ever see somebody, good martial artist, and you see out there, you say, oh, I love that kick, I love what he's doing, I love this, I love that. Well, you take the better things from that hero, that you may take it and make it yours. That you may take the way you perceive it and give it the way you feel about it. And then your mind needs mantras. Mantras are things that you tell yourself that you are worthy of everything that comes your way. You're worthy of the love, you're worthy of being the champion, you're worthy of all of it. But if you don't believe that you can be, it won't happen. So the mind works that way. And you need the focus, you need the hero, and you need to let yourself know that you can do anything. There's nothing you cannot do. And that's what the martial art does. That's what we present. We give you tools to live your life. We don't teach you how to live your life. We give you tools that you can, because it's your choice that you make. Some choices are great, some choices are not so good, but they're yours. How many here trust yourself? Raise your hand if you trust yourself. Okay, because again, if you're one that says, well, I don't trust me, but I trust you. In other words, if I say I trust Sensei Richard, okay, if I only trust Sensei here, then I'm saying if I make a mistake, I say I don't trust me, but I trust Sensei here. Now, if something goes wrong, I can always throw it. Well, you told me it was going to work, so I'm throwing it on him instead of me taking action for it. I threw it on him. But if I trust myself, okay, I trust that I can handle it, then if I make that mistake, then it doesn't become a mistake. It becomes mine. I become with an understanding of it. So it's never a mistake. It's only a mistake if you don't have the courage to do it or try it. Okay? It takes courage to try something new, something different, something that is out of your comfortable zone. You know, it takes courage to do that. And hopefully, you know, is what the art is teaching you, to have the courage to try it. Have the courage to do something that maybe you normally wouldn't do. And so Bruce Lee came in with that, had such courage to go out there and do something new when everybody was saying, oh, that's that, oh, hey, we don't do that kind of stuff, we're this style. He brought something new, and it was almost not giving us permission, but it was almost like saying, he's doing it, we can do it. And it made it neutral for everybody. And so nowadays, you get the best. You know why? Because now everybody, mixed martial arts means mixing the arts. Because again, to mix martial arts, to have an understanding, because truly it's a way of life. In the street, there's no rules. If you have to defend yourself, and sometimes we have arguments. That's mental warfare. If you're having an argument with somebody, and there's a warfare going on in the mind because you feel you're right, they feel that they're right. But again, if you had the courage to say, if that's the way you feel, that's okay. I don't have to argue about it. If that's what you're feeling, so be it. I don't feel that way. It takes courage to actually let yourself know. You know, they say the hardest thing to do is to ask forgiveness and forgive forgiveness. You know why it's the hardest thing to do? It's because we want to be right. It's almost like, why should I apologize when they're the ones in the wrong? They're the ones that started it. Because you have the courage to say, for whatever I did to you to make you so mad, I'm sorry. That's it. When you do that, automatically they have no place to go with that. So it takes strength, it takes power. You see, in the ring, that's only one way. The art of war is mental warfare, physical warfare, spiritual warfare, character warfare, all have energy. And in this ring, it's a physical thing. It's a physical warfare that you sing. But really, when it comes down to it, it's all the above. Because in this square jungle here, what I call the square jungle of the ring, is when everything you hide under your bed in your closet comes up. That means all your fear, all your anger, all your frustrations, all come out in this ring. How many enter this ring and felt fear before you enter? I know I have. How many of you got angry in the square jungle? Okay. How many of you got frustrated in the square jungle? All right. How many of you had anxieties in the ring? Anxiety means I feel like I can't get out and I need some help, and you're looking for help. That's anxieties when you can't go nowhere. That's what this is for. That's what the art is about. And Bruce brought that without the ring. He brought that element of emotion, and he showed. So we had a chance to build on that. And right now, you get the best of us. Why? Because all the times that we were practicing back then, you know, we really had not, I mean, we understood a certain way of combat. But throughout the years, and Full Contact came in 73, everybody, it brought out everything. For myself, because I was already used to the ring, boxing. As a kid, I was already boxing, so I was already used to the ring. But when Full Contact came in, it brought a lot of emotions. And you know why it brought a lot of emotions? Because why? Everybody was hiding their fear, hiding their anger. How many of you fear yourself? Raise your hand if you fear yourself. Okay, let me ask you in another way. How many of you fear your anger? How many of you fear of not having control? How many of you fear of being judged? How many of you fear of disappointing somebody? How many of you, I'm sure you can come up with some too. So when I say, how many of you fear yourself? How many of you fear yourself? Raise your hand. Okay, so if you know, if you're one of those to say, I fear myself, means now I'm on my way for healing. Now I can heal it. Because if you can't say it and you can't admit that you have that, how can you heal something that you're not willing to admit or willing to stand forward on it? That's power. That's strength. So in this, that's what we're doing here.